Ladies and gentlemen, the Alabama Senate will now come to order. Our prayer today will be delivered by Dr. Andrew Flatgard, a Redeemer Presbyterian Church in Decatur. Dr. Flatgard is a guest of Senator Orr.
Good afternoon. Will you please pray with me? Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. As the psalmist wrote, how majestic is your name in all the earth. You have set your glory above the heavens. You created all things by the power of your word, and you said it was good. You created mankind in your own image and for your own glory, and said it was very good. We marvel at your power. We praise you for the sublime beauty of our world. Thank you for the many blessings you have given us. Thank you for food, shelter, and clothing. Thank you for family and friends, for work and rest. And thank you for sending your son Jesus to be the Savior of the whole world. Thank you for this great state of Alabama, for its beauty from the mountains in the north to its plains, to its sandy beaches, which glorify you in their beauty. Thank you as well for these Senate leaders. Bless them, Lord. Bless their families who sacrifice as well. Father, you promise to give wisdom generously and without reproach, if we will only ask. Will you please give your wisdom generously and in great abundance to these men and women who desire to lead well? Lead them to govern well for the sake of everyone. Lead them to make wise decisions for the people of Alabama. Finally, your word tells us to remember the poor. Blessed are the poor, you said, for theirs is the kingdom of God. We pray for all in Alabama who are in need of basic essentials today to live. Lord, bless them today, and all for your own glory. We pray all these things to the glory of the Lord Jesus Christ, who is our great hope and who conquered death. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Today, the pledge will be led by Esther Laguerre. Esther attends the University of Alabama as interning for Senator Orr and Senator Albritton.
Attention, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you, Esther. Secretary, call the roll.
Mr. Albritton.
Thank you.
Mr. Allen. Mr. Barfoot. Mr. Beasley. Mr. Bell. Mr. Butler. Mr. Carnley. Mr. Chambliss. Mr. Chasteen. Ms. Coleman. Ms. Coleman-Madison. Mr. Elliott. Ms. Figures. Mr. Gavan. Mr. Gudger. Mr. Hatcher. Mr. Hovey. Mr. Jones. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kitchens, Mr. Livingston, Mr. Melson, Mr. Orr, Mr. Price, Mr. Roberts, Mr. Sessions, Mr. Shelnut, Mr. Singleton, Mr. Smitherman, Mr. Stewart, Mr. Stutz, Mr. Wagner, Ms. Weaver, Mr. Williams.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have 23 senators present, which is a quorum. The Senate is ready to transact business.
Mr. President.
Senator Wagner.
Move that we excuse absent senators.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. President.
Senator Wagner.
Move that we dispense with the reading of the journal from the previous legislative day and that we adopt said journal.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered. All right, now move on to introduction of bills. Or, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Move that we be allowed to receive committee reports all during the day.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered. All right, now move on to introduction of bills. Senator Jones.
Mr. President, make a motion we allow for the introduction of bills at any point throughout the day.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right. Now move on to House messages. Secretary, call the first House message.
Message from the House. Mr. President, the House of Representatives has originated and passed the following engrossed House bill and ordered same sent forthwith to the Senate. House Bill number 160 by Representatives Lee and others is referred to the Committee on Fiscal Responsibility and Economic Development. Signed, John Treadwell, Clerk.
All right, don't have any committee reports. Move on to motions and resolutions.
Mr. President,
Yeah, Senator Roberts.
I'd like to motion we accept committee reports throughout the day.
We've already made that.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Yes, Senator Butler.
I have a resolution.
All right, Secretary Reed, receive the resolution.
Senate Joint Resolution number 13 by Senator Butler, recognizing February 2025 as the American Heart Month.
Mr. President, two things. One, I'd like to have the resolution read at length. Without objection, have all members added as co-sponsors.
All right, any objection to having all members added as co-sponsor? Hearing none, so ordered. And then you want it read at length? All right, Secretary, read the resolution, please.
Senate Joint Resolution recognizing February 2025 as the American Heart Month. Whereas more than 350,000 people experience cardiac arrest outside of a hospital each year, and about 70% of these occur at home, only about 1 in 10 survive, and more than 23,000 children under the age of 18 experience cardiac arrest outside of a hospital each year in the United States, and almost 40% of those are sports-related. Whereas cardiopulmonary resuscitation, CPR, especially if performed immediately, can double or triple a person's chance of survival. Only about 46% of people who experience cardiac arrest receive CPR from people nearby while waiting for emergency responders to arrive. And whereas there are effective solutions to this problem, including awareness and education to have cardiac emergency response plans in place and CPR education and automated external defibrillators, AEDs, training and accessibility. Whereas knowing how to properly perform CPR has encouraged more people to act when faced with a cardiac emergency and to save more lives from cardiac arrest outside of a hospital. We must increase the number of people who respond to cardiac arrest by calling 911, delivering high-quality CPR, and using an AED as soon as it is available. And whereas the American Heart Association has set a goal of doubling the survival of cardiac arrest by 2030 by turning bystanders into lifesavers so that everyone, everywhere is prepared and empowered to become a vital link in the chain of survival and by being prepared to provide CPR in response to a cardiac emergency. Now therefore be it resolved by the legislature of Alabama, both houses thereof concurring, that in celebration of American Heart Month, we urge every household to join the nation of lifesavers and learn to administer CPR.
Mr. President, as one of the 1 in 10 that survived, I move immediate adoption, asking all members to be co-sponsors.
All right, we've already done the all members co-sponsor. The final, any objection for immediate consideration? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Resolution's adopted. Any other motions or resolutions? You got a motion or resolution?
Mr. President, I actually need a moment of personal privilege, please.
You're recognized.
Thank you so much. It is really with great pleasure today that I stand here as the senator for Senate District 19, where the Miles College is located. And today, very excited that we have with us in the gallery our president, Dr. Bobby Knight, who is an absolutely amazing president, but our golf team. And they are led by their coach, Leonard Smoot. I've known Leonard Smoot for about 20 years, and I just want you all to hear a little bit about their accomplishments. They have 2 conference championships, 1 national championship. The Miles College golf team went to Myoshi City, Japan to compete in the University Golf Super League tournament, which features men and women's collegiate golf teams from Japan, the United States, and throughout Asia. And I do want to name just a little bit about these young athletes that are scholar athletes. So we pride and we celebrate them on their academic achievements, but these are smart young men. So whereas with great pride and special pleasure, highest commendations and congratulations are herein proudly presented to the Miles College golf team, the Golden Bears, and head coach Leonard Smoot for a phenomenal 23-24 season, achieving the Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Conference SEAC Championship title and earning a spot to compete in the National Collegiate Athletic Association NCAA Division II South-Southeast Championship Tournament. And I'll go to the end, it is tremendous privilege to recognize Coach Smoot and the Miles College Golden Bears. Here are the team members, and I hope I don't mispronounce anybody's name. Jairus Baker, Philip Darts, Zachary Dopel, Darius Giles, Malachi Green, Samuel Stagno, Marquise Taylor, and Jesse Williams for their athletic and their academic achievements. Therefore, be it resolved by the Senate of the Legislature of Alabama that the Miles College golf team, the Golden Bears, and head coach Leonard Smoot are commended for competing in the 2024 NCAA Division II South-Southeast Regional Championship and winning the 2024 SEAC Golf Championship. And this resolution is offered to them in the highest tribute to their remarkable achievements, along with heartiest congratulations and best wishes for the continued success in all of your future endeavors. To my colleagues, please salute and please acknowledge our Miles College golf team that's here with us today in the Alabama Senate. Thank you so much for coming to the Alabama Legislature, to the People's House. And again, congratulations to all of these young men, their coaches, and of course, our president, Dr. Bobby Knight. Thank you, Mr. President, for that moment of personal privilege.
Thank you, Senator Coleman, and welcome to the Alabama Senate. Also want to welcome another group in the gallery, the guest of Senator Carnley. When I call your name, if y'all could please stand, the I Know Baptist Church senior adults. Got a chance to meet y'all earlier. Welcome to the Alabama Senate. Great to have you.
Mr. President,
Senator Smithman.
could I be recognized for a moment in Black History, moment of personal privilege?
You can. I thought you were going to be recognized to talk about how Auburn, Alabama, the number 1 and the number 2 team in the country, are going to play.
Oh man, that's going to be a game of the century. You know, do y'all think I can get a resolution passed by y'all? We better ask Secretary first, because now he does not like this. Resolution passed that we can put them games up there right there, just be in here, take a little recess and sit up here and watch the game in here. What y'all think?
I hope y'all don't keep me here till Saturday.
Oh,
That'll be a long time. So
we won't do that.
All right. But you're recognized.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our moment in Black history. This moment, we're going to recognize a pioneer in Alabama. And what I hope to do, the majority of them that I present to you will be people who live in Alabama and who made this history in our state. This is one gentleman that did just such thing. His name is Archie L. Wade. How many of y'all know Archie Wade? Ever heard of Archie Wade? Okay. Well, when we get through, you're going to know him well. It said that Dr. Wade, a Tuscaloosa native, was born in 1930. Y'all all right? Yes, all right. And born in 1939 and attended Stillman College, where he earned a Bachelor of Science in 1961. A renowned student athlete, following graduation, he stayed at Stillman College to coach baseball and basketball before going on to play professional baseball and earn his master's degree from West Virginia University. Dr. Wade was a highly skilled athlete. He was recruited by legendary baseball coach Sparky Anderson as a minor league player and was a starter in a record-breaking 29-inning game in 1966. That same year, he led the Class A Florida League with a 338 batting average. On September the 19th, 1964, Jeffries Winston and Nathan Howard were gifted tickets to an Alabama versus Georgia football game by the university president, Frank Rose, with the goal of desegregating Guinea Stadium together. The three men accomplished exactly that. Dr. Wade spent 2 years working as a recruiter for the legendary Alabama football coach Paul Bear Bryant, while teaching and working on his doctorate degree at the University of Alabama. During this time, the Tide began recruiting black players, breaking yet another racial barrier at the capstone. Though he had his role as a pioneer, a professor, and a mentor that he leaves behind as a cherished legacy. Dr. Wade was elected by then president of the university, Dr. David Matthews, to break the color barrier and become the first African-American faculty member on campus when he joined the Department of Kinesiology in 1970. This was a key contribution to the College of Education as well as the University of Alabama as he successfully integrated the professors, paving the way for other black faculty members to join the staff. Dr. Wade earned his doctorate from the University of Alabama in 1974, and in 1975 he was one of the founding members of the university's Black Faculty and Staff Association. He continued his career at the University of Alabama until his retirement in 2000. The YMCA inducted Dr. Wade into their Hall of Fame in 2010 for his significant contributions to the institution, beginning with organizing baseball and basketball leagues for black youth during the late 1950s and early 60s. In 2013, Dr. Wade was honored by the University of Alabama with a ceremony and a plaque within the series of celebrations marking the 50th anniversary of the university's integration. That plaque is located in what is now Wade Hall, named in his honor in 2021, and the home of the Department of Kinesiology. He was also inducted into the College of Education Hall of Fame in 2015. He was known as a courageous and resilient man with a gentle, refined, and gracious spirit. The way he spoke to students, the way he dealt with colleagues, and his way he interacted with the public spoke volumes of his love for humanity and his attitude of service. This person that I have read and told you all about, I read this from the resolution that the great senator from Tuscaloosa, Senator Allen, is going to, if he's recognized, present at this time for our consideration.
Mr. President,
Senator Allen.
I want to thank the senator from Birmingham for doing this. I wish that everyone on this floor would have had an opportunity to have known Dr. Archie Wade, one of the finest men that I ever had a privilege to be taught under. He was my professor and one of the great forerunners, as you spoke of, Senator.
Yes, sir.
And in his spare time, he helped his father run a printing shop there in West Tuscaloosa City. And anyway, Mr. President, I'm gonna move that we include all the senators as co-sponsors.
All right, I think we need the resolution.
Okay, yeah, let's print.
Could y'all introduce it?
There we go. Go ahead.
All right, Secretary, read and receive the resolution, please.
Senate Joint Resolution number 14 by Senators Allen and Smitherman, mourning the death and celebrating the life of Archie L. Wade.
Mr. President.
Senator Allen.
Excellent resolution to honor a great individual of this great state. And I'm going to move that we include all the senators as
right.
co-sponsors.
Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
And I move the immediate adoption.
All right, any objection? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution's adopted. Thanks, Senator Allen. Thanks, Senator Smitherman.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, any other motions or resolutions? All right, if not, all right, Senator Wagner.
Mr. President,
Senator Wagner.
have a report from the Committee on Rules.
All right, Secretary, read and receive the report from the Committee on Rules.
From the Committee on Rules, Senate Resolution number 15, Special Order Calendar. Be it resolved by the Senate of the Legislature of Alabama that immediately upon the adoption of this resolution, the following business in the order set forth below shall be the special and paramount order of business for the fourth legislative day, taking precedence over the regular order of business or any pending or unfinished business. On page 1 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 67 by Senators Jones and Chasteen relating to Veterans Affairs. On page 2, Senate Bill number 61 by Senators Hatcher and others regarding school psychologists. On page 2, Senate Bill number 59 by Senators Chasteen and Jones regarding military medical records. On page 3, Senate Bill number 86 by Senators Orr and Albritton regarding labor and employment.
Mr. President,
Senator Wagner.
move adoption of the report from the Committee on Rules using short roll call.
All right, Secretary, call the long roll.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Allen. Mr. Barfoot. Mr. Beasley. Mr. Bell. Mr. Butler. Mr. Carnley. Mr. Chambliss. Mr. Chasteen. Ms. Coleman. Ms. Coleman Madison. Mr. Elliott. Ms. Figures. Mr. Gavan. Mr. Gudger. Mr. Hatcher. Mr. Hovey. Mr. Jones. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kitchens. Mr. Livingston. Mr. Melson. Mr. Orr. Mr. Price. Mr. Roberts. Mr. Sessions. Mr. Shelnut. Mr. Singleton. Mr. Smitherman. Mr. Stewart. Mr. Stutz. Mr. Wagner. Ms. Weaver. Mr. Williams.
"31 ayes, 1 nay. The special order calendar is adopted. Secretary, call the first bill.
On page 1 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 67 by Senators Jones and Chasteen regarding Veterans Affairs. PR pending.
Mr. President,
Senator Jones.
would move adoption of the BIR using the previous roll without objection.
All right, any objection? All right, Secretary, call the long roll.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Allen. Mr. Barfoot. Mr. Beasley. Mr. Bell. Mr. Butler. Mr. Carnley. Mr. Chambliss. Mr. Chastain. Ms. Coleman. Ms. Coleman Madison. Mr. Elliott. Ms. Figures. Mr. Gavan. Mr. Gudger. Mr. Hatcher. Mr. Hovey. Mr. Jones. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kitchens. Mr. Livingston. Mr. Melson. Mr. Orr. Mr. Price. Mr. Roberts. Mr. Sessions. Mr. Shelnut. Mr. Singleton. Mr. Smitherman. Mr. Stewart. Mr. Stutz. Mr. Wagner. Ms. Weaver. Mr. Williams.
21 ayes, 6 nays, the BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 1 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 67 by Senator Jones and Chastain regarding Veterans Affairs.
Mr. President,
Senator Jones.
what we have today, colleagues, is a bill to reorganize and restructure the Alabama Department of Veterans Affairs. And I know we have some dialogue and several colleagues that are offering some friendly amendments today. But I just want to say that, for far too long, our veterans in the state of Alabama have not been recognized or not been supported at the level that I think in recent years we have been able to achieve. I think we've done a lot with your leadership, Mr. President, in terms of the Military Stability Commission, in terms of all the work that we've done with licensed reciprocity, with different legislation to support military and veterans, to elevate the status of veterans around the state. And this is just a further step in building on all that work that we have done to further elevate the department by bringing it fully into the fold of state government and by making the head of the Department of Veterans Affairs a cabinet-level position. The commissioner will have the ear of the governor, be a part of the governor's team and cabinet, and I think that only helps what we're doing to promote veterans and work with veterans around the state. We've had a lot of feedback from different veterans organizations, veteran service organizations around the state about the bill, and a number of friendly amendments are coming which help satisfy or help improve the bill in terms of these veteran service organizations. Just to briefly walk through the bill, this would streamline the board. Currently there are 17 members appointed for 4-year terms, and each veteran service organization submits 3 nominations to the governor, who must appoint 1 nominee from each list. This would broaden the board substantially in terms of who could be appointed, whether they're a member of a VSO or not. The current bill sets it at 9 members down from the 17 that we have currently, although we do expect some friendly amendments today to raise that to a total of 13 after all the amendments are adopted. These members would still be appointed to a 4-year term, and they could be reappointed once. The current bill, again, prior to any amendments that are coming today, the governor appoints 7 members, the speaker and the pro tem of the Senate each appoint 1 member, and all the standard language that we have in most bills about racial, gender, geographic, urban, rural, and economic diversity will be are there in this legislation. With that, I'll note one more thing before I recognize my colleague across the way. What we're doing here is not unlike what's been done in many other places in state government. There are at least a dozen boards that I have here, boards and agencies, that have a similar structure of a cabinet-level official being the head, the commissioner, the person in charge, with an advisory body to support them. And just for your knowledge, those entities are the ABC Board, the Banking Commission, Commerce, Conservation and Natural Resources, DHR, Medicaid, Mental Health, Minority Affairs, the National Guard, Department of Senior Services, the Department of Tourism, and the Department of Workforce that was just created from the Department of Labor. So what we're doing is in line with other entities in state government. In my opinion, it elevates the status and stature of our veterans organization to a cabinet level official. The buck stops with the governor, and the advisory board, just in summary, is able to be more diverse and inclusive of all veterans, all branches of service from around the state. And so with that, I see my colleague across the way. I'd like to dialogue with Senator Albritton, if that's all right, Mr. President.
Mr. President.
Senator Albritton.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator, for the recognition and for the opportunity to stand here and to speak to you about these things. These things are important. If I might speak a little bit to reiterate, I think, what you've said. One thing that this bill does is it takes this almost unknown entity and brings it to a level of cabinet level position. The thing that does is it brings this veterans group then at the same level with a daily contact with the state government, with daily contact with the governor's office, with daily contact in the operation of the business of the state of Alabama. And thus they will be engaged, they will be involved, they will be a known entity. Too often times previously, and keep in mind the organization that we have came out of World War II, 75 years ago is when this was established. And we've a bit outgrown where we are. This organization has become too insular, if I might say it that way. And because of that, I think is one of the reasons so many folks, veterans, are unaware of the state organization. Now, that may be a bit overstatement, but I believe it to be true that this entity has remained in obscurity. And this is an effort to bring it out of obscurity and into the operations of the state government. I think there's ways that we can improve it. I think with the discussions, and we've had a lot of discussions. We started this last week, discussions here on this floor, down below, and all the way around. I've been to every one of us went home during the weekend, and every one of us, I think, met with veteran groups and met with relatives and such. I've had my brothers call me and talk to me about this. I've got veterans that are siblings, I've got veterans that are children, I've got veterans that are in-laws, all of which are affected by this, and all of them have an interest in this. There's ways that we need to make some improvements. And I would suggest that between what we're doing here is an effort to try to make and take this opportunity of bringing this organization and making it more effective, more efficient, and more substantive when it comes to state government. I know that there's been times veterans are a very active group, and very often it becomes politically necessary for us to do things for politics reasons. There's politics in everything. But in the movement of this bill and the way we're trying to achieve and bring this forward is a means of trying to improve and to establish and to build upon where we are so that we can be better. Now, having said that, I have a couple of amendments, and I'd like to explain what we're doing and why we're doing this, and then see if these, I think we already have these agreed upon. You've seen these and such. The first one has to deal with the adding out of the 9-member board, we're going to enforce and suggest, no, we're going to make it statutory, that 2 of them be members of the Alabama National Guard or the Air National Guard, and one of those be enlisted and one of them be officer. Now, to put this into context, when we were having these discussions and we were talking about enlisted and officer, I was surprised to note that some of the people that we're talking to did not understand the difference between enlisted and officer. And when I tried to explain what an E1 to E9 was, or an O1 to an O10 was, it had no meaning to them. The foundational knowledge was not there. So anyway, I point that out as an illustration. But what this amendment does is it simply makes, of the 9-member board, 2 of them will be members of the National Guard selected by the governor that would receive the recommendations from the Adjutant General for those appointments. With that, I'd offer the amendment.
All right, Secretary, read and receive the amendment.
Amendment to Senate Bill 67 by Senator Albritton. Replace lines 59 through 60 on page 3 with the following. Replace line 70 on page 3 with the following.
Senator Albritton.
Thank you. With that, I'd entertain any questions by the sponsor. I think you've seen this one.
This is a very friendly amendment. I've seen it, and I think it only improves the bill having our National Guard involved. They do a great job. So thank you for bringing this.
All right, with that, Mr. President, I'd move for adoption of the amendment I'd like to use the long roll.
All right. Senator Figurs, did you want to talk on? Okay. All right, Secretary, call the long roll.
Mr. Albritton.
Aye.
Mr. Allen. Mr. Barfoot. Mr. Beasley. Mr. Bell. Mr. Butler. Mr. Carnley. Mr. Chambliss. Mr. Chasteen. Ms. Coleman. Ms. Coleman-Madison. Mr. Elliott. Ms. Figures. Mr. Gavan. Mr. Gudger. Mr. Hatcher. Mr. Hovey. Mr. Jones. Mr. Kelly. Mr. Kitchens. Mr. Livingston. Mr. Melson. Mr. Orr. Mr. Price. Mr. Roberts. Mr. Sessions. Mr. Shelnut. Mr. Singleton. Mr. Smithman. Mr. Stewart. Mr. Stutz. Mr. Wagner. Ms. Weaver. Mr. Williams.
28 ayes, 0 nays. The Senator Albritton amendment's adopted. Senator Albritton.
Mr. President, thank you, and I thank the body for that. One of the purposes of making the changes and bringing this up also is to ensure that we protect and increase the voice of veterans in the state of Alabama, that the government, and they be a part of the government, and that they be heard and have that voice that's there. Therefore, I have a second amendment, and this amendment deals with making sure that of those 9 members, 5 of the board members must be veterans from active duty service in the military that served the time frame of a minimum of 60 days, and that comes from other sources, and have been honorably discharged. That makes sure that we have the majority of this board for the veterans that are actual and real veterans. With that, I present the amendment.
All right, Secretary, read and receive the amendment.
Amendment to Senate Bill number 67 by Senator Albritton. Replace line 103 on page 4 with the following.
All right, Senator Albritton. Senator Albritton.
Did you have a comment? Okay. I think gentlelady from Birmingham would like to make a comment on this amendment, if I might yield my time to.
Okay. Yes, Senator Coleman, you're recognized.
Thank you so much. And I do support the amendment, but I'm hoping, again, and I don't have an amendment prepared today, so I'm hoping that also there is space also left for wartime vets. You know, I heard it, been active duty, but also there is also a difference when it comes to wartime vets as well, so I hope that there's a space. I just wanted to mention on this bill, I appreciate the work that has been done on the bill and the connection, direct connection with the governor's office. However, I do have some concerns. You all have heard many times when I come to the microphone over my 22 years that my dad is a real life American hero. He is a disabled vet, served 22 years in the United States Air Force, fought in Gulf War I, which is the reason he's in the wheelchair to this day. He is one of the reasons that those folks that fight for the freedoms that some people take for granted. So anything dealing with veterans, of course, is near and dear to me. And so last night, I had talked to the governor's office and didn't feel like I had any issues. I hadn't heard any opposition at the time. Even when you and I talked, I hadn't heard any opposition, but I was a speaker last night in one of the cities in my district. And afterwards, some of the members of one of my American Legion posts came to talk to me about their concerns. And of course, some of the things you've already cleared up, they wanted to make sure that whoever is chosen is actually a vet, somebody who's had military experience. You know, I'm adding me that there is a distinction of having someone that actually has also had some wartime service that understands the complexity of that as well. But I have 3 posts in my district, and when I'm hearing from folks that they have challenges with this bill, that's concerning to me. But on the positive, because I'm trying to be that person now, on the positive, some of them came down today. They did inform me that they got some great reception, that people were willing to have conversations, and I think that's the place that we need to be. That folks need to, our folks, our servicemen and women, again, these people that have, put their bodies in harm's way, who have protected this country, folks who will continue to or even have family members that are still serving. We need to make sure that these people have a voice and they are also comfortable with whomever the leadership is going to be. So I feel like we're getting there. These 2 amendments definitely are helpful to getting us there, and I know some others are coming. But again, I want to make sure that I go on the record saying that I support our veterans 100%, and I support their voice, and I want to make sure that they end up with someone that is comfortable. I mean, I feel confident that this administration and its staff will do what it needs to do to have a person of valor, but I want to make sure that our veterans feel comfortable with who is at the helm. And again, I had to go on record for that. And again, I'm the daughter of retired Master Sergeant Arthur Bruce Williams Sr., and I stand proudly in that. And I am who I am today because of him. Thank you, Mr. President, for that moment.
All right. Thanks, Senator Coleman. All right, we are on the Senator Albritton Amendment number 2.
Move for adoption of the amendment using previous rule without objection.
Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
28 ayes, 0 nays. The Senator Albritton Amendment number 2 is adopted. Thanks, Senator Albritton.
Thank you, and I encourage members to engage here. Let's be a participant and get this accomplished, and so that we can improve our vets here in Alabama. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Mr. President, before we get to my colleague, I just would like to thank Senator Coleman for her remarks, and I would say that the door's wide open. We have 4 or 5 other amendments that are coming, and if you'd like to work with the desk back here or the folks representing our governor, then we'd be happy to go ahead and put that on if we need to. So just wanted to make that offer. Folks, this is what the process is all about, making it better, having more involvement. This is what the legislative process is. So appreciate Senator Carnley, and I know you've got some language you'd like to have incorporated.
All right, thanks, Senator Jones. Senator Carnley.
Yes, Mr. President, thank you. I'd like to offer an amendment to SB.
All right, Secretary read and receive the amendment.
Amendment to Senate Bill 67 as introduced by Senator Carnley. Replace line 107 on page 4 with the following. Replace line 332 on page 12 with the following.
All right, Senator Carnley.
Can I borrow that real quick so I can just make sure that I give you all the details? But Senator Jones, I just want to say thank you. I appreciate the open door. I know since this bill's come out and when we had it in committee, we discussed, and you've been, very gracious to listen. And a lot of what I've done is reach back out to the folks back home. We have a large veteran organizations in Senate District 31, Fort Novosel there, and we get a lot of those folks that retire and call that place home, and we're grateful for that. But, in doing this, one of the things that we wanted to do is to make sure that our VSOs were given consideration, because this is a change from what the board currently is made up of and how they are selected. So what this bill does is it just states that if there is a vacation on that board where there is a new appointee required, that our veteran service organizations would be given 30-day written notice. Of course, they provide us a good address, so we make sure that, we're sending it to the appropriate place. But they are given, timely notice, 30 days, that there is a vacation and an opening on this board in which we are requesting somebody be appointed. Now, that could be the governor's appointment, could be the pro tem's appointment, could be the House Speaker's appointment, whichever, appointment or position is being vacated. But what this does is it gives them notice. It also says that we will accept 3 recommendations to fill that position, and that we will give them primary consideration in appointing that new board member. So again, I think one of the things that we're trying to do is make sure that our veteran service organizations that are, that are serving our veteran community, kind of that eyes and ears of, state and federal policy that's going back home and affecting every one of these veterans, is kind of that conduit that we can work with. I know that in reading this, we just want to make sure that we do our part to listen to them, and you've done that, and I appreciate that. The governor's office has been very willing to work with us. I know this is kind of, taxing. It's one of those bills you kind of ready to get done with, but I really do appreciate you working with us. I think we got a few more things that we need to work out that you're aware of, and I appreciate you, allowing us to come and to listen, because I'm not a veteran, so I depend on these guys a lot to help, educate me and show me the things that they are concerned about. And again, I think this is moving in the right direction, and so I appreciate the opportunity to bring this amendment and look forward to working with you as we get this thing to a point where we can get it on a vote. So I appreciate that.
Thank you, Senator.
All right.
Real quick, so in that amendment, I need you to go get another one. It's not done properly, and then bring that back if you don't mind, okay? All right, so any objection to withdrawing his amendment? All right, hearing none, so ordered. And then get the right amendment and bring it back, and we'll be good to go.
Yeah, I would, Mr. President, just say to the members, now that we've got a couple amendments on there, we got 4 or 5 more, want to please double check and make sure they fit when you bring them, because things are changing So you might want to go to the desk and just run that by them and make sure it fits, and let's get an order that we're bringing them in so that everything fits properly. Thank you.
Yeah, while we're waiting for a second, at this time, if you're a veteran or active military in the gallery, if y'all could please stand. Welcome to the Alabama Senate. Certainly appreciate y'all's service. All right, Senator Coleman Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Jones, I have an amendment, but let me just say, veterans are very important. Copy. Oh, there again, this is coming from the governor's office. Didn't have the number on it. I guess we're going to be in the same position. We want to make sure that this was, Mr. Chairman, we want to make sure that these were agreed upon, looking at the source of where this bill came from, the governor's office, so it sent to them to get approval and okay and drafted. So now we've got to go, yeah, that's why we need to go through the process that we all go through with bills. So I need to take this over here and do the same thing, but may I go ahead and explain what it's about? Since I'm up here?
Sure, you've got the mic. You're welcome to explain whatever you'd like.
And this is an agreed upon amendment. Basically, it falls in line that's consistent with what we did last week. As I look at many of these commissions and boards and agencies, in particular when it comes down to Veterans Affairs, we don't see many, if any, women that are represented, and certainly women are in every field, every armed services. They serve gallantly. They serve with honor. Again, last week I made reference to my own sister, Master Sergeant Sandra F. Ray, that served 24 years in the Air Force. And when she separated from the Air Force, I guess she had such this military thing in her because she was in ROTC in high school. There was not a slot in the Air Force Reserve, and she joined the Army Reserve and served there for 2 years until there was a slot. But anyway, I say this to say that all of these decisions are made about the health and welfare, mental health services that are provided to the veterans. The Lieutenant Governor has a very bullish agenda when it comes down to Alabama being, and Governor, I saw you on public television about basically what we are trying to do in Alabama. I believe now is the #1 state as far as being veteran friendly. We don't want to forget the women who served. You know, they don't just serve as a secretary or pushing papers or whatever. They're on the battlefield as well. And so when it comes down to serving on these boards and agencies and having a voice at the table of how resources are allocated and the services that they get, we certainly don't want to forget that fact. So basically this bill would, of the 9 appointed members by the governor, it shall have one of whom shall be a female veteran. And so I don't know if they are ready over there with the other amendment, but let me just say along with that as well, following along with the comment that the state Senator Marika Coleman made, her father is a veteran as well. The fact that many of us have gotten calls about this position. A lot of it has to do with trust. A lot of our veterans are in the gallery today. But I think looking at what is going on at the national level and wondering whether their interests are going to be taken care of, we are very fortunate in Birmingham that we have a Veterans Hospital that serves the whole state. And they have built 2 new facilities off-site where they can get care as they come in. And we have people that are coming in here from Huntsville and South Alabama. Again, whoever is at the helm of that will direct the services and how veterans are treated when they go to the Veterans Hospital or an off-site to try to get their paperwork together or whatever. They want to make sure that those services are in, and they don't want to be running around and given call somebody else. So I say this to my colleagues and Mr. Speaker, Chairman, is that the issue is of trust. we want to make sure that whoever the governor appoints to this position, not only are they a veteran, but they are a vetted person that really has the interests of the veterans. And that they have a voice that speaks for the veterans, not one that somebody's in that position that goes along to get along. Because we're talking about lives, we're talking about families, and to me, it would be a disservice to our veterans who gave their lives to serve the country so that we stand here to say America, the land of the free. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I'm just rattling on while you all are getting that together because
You're very
I've got to
kind.
go back and do the same thing. I do have a question, though.
Yes, Senator.
Okay, obviously, this probably won't be the last bill of such that we will get, and we will be asking for amendments, but we still got to go back through the governor's process. I would make a request that whoever the governor has, her team that is working on these amendments, that they vet it with LSA,
Yes.
the proper division, so that we won't have this issue. All of our bills go through that process in order to make sure that they are correct, and when they are put in the code so that they've got a number and everything matches. I don't think that we need to bypass that coming out of the governor's office simply because it's a bill that the governor passed. This is a matter of procedure to make sure that everything is correct and recorded, to ensure that the amendments that we are trying to get on here, we don't want it to be that we introduce and say because of a number wasn't on here, it wasn't recorded, or that amendment didn't get on there. So I know somebody from the governor's office listening, and that's with request with respect. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator, and you're going to work on your amendment and bring it back, I gather. So while we're working, you know, if no one else has got an amendment this time, I'm happy to just kind of talk about the bill and what it does a little more while we're waiting. I know there's some things coming. Senator Sessions, yeah, I'd love to dialogue with you.
Hey, Senator Jones, I do have a small amendment, but I don't know if mine's going to fit right now or not. It's kind of, I'll explain what I want to see happen. I think you and I have talked just a little bit about it. Our veterans, you can take a look at it. Is it going to need to be fixed? It'll have to be fixed also. But anyway, just heads up on it. Once we decide who the board is going to be, how they're going to be selected, whether it's 9, whether it's 11, whether it's 13, that group has their initial meetings or whatever. I would like to see that group of veterans that's from across the state submit names to the governor for the governor's consideration. So what my amendment will do is allow that board to submit 3 names to the governor. She may not pick them. She may want them to submit 3 new names. You know, there may be some reasons why, but anyway, that's basically what my amendment would do. But while they're working on their amendments, and I'm sure I'm going to have to work on mine a little bit, we can talk about this legislation a little bit. And I did have a question earlier when they come up on the National Guard. I think we were adding 2 National Guard. And we already had, do we already have a National Guard group? I heard you in your opening comments that they had already had a cabinet position.
So you're talking about in terms of this bill?
Not in this bill, separate.
So I believe General Pritchett is a member of the governor's cabinet. I'm not 100% sure on that, but that was not in, yes, that was in the list that I read. I'm sorry.
Yeah, in the
Yes.
list you read. So that's good for them. They should be recognized. And then I certainly agree with the veterans. I'm not a veteran myself, but I am the son of a World War II veteran who served was a Marine at Pearl Harbor when it was bombed. So, and my uncle was also there. So my dad and my uncle were Marines there. So have veterans in my family for sure. Mm-hmm. And then the other one, the question was on the 5, making sure that at least 5 were veterans. Now that doesn't say that the other 2 have to be, they can also be veterans, but be a veteran that may be a investment banker or a veteran that may be a doctor, or, it don't say they can't be a veteran. It just says that 5 have to be veterans. The others can be professionals from other aspects of life, but they could still be a veteran also, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
That's-
And maybe there's a spouse of a veteran who has been involved in working in nonprofits and working to serve, for a long time. There's no reason why a person like that shouldn't be able to be in consideration. Now, but the majority of the board, as we agree, should definitely be made up of folks who've served. And since we're dialoguing here, I want to mention, too, one more issue that I'd like to highlight. We've got to make sure, and I know my colleague is coming with some language which will help ensure some diversity on the board. We got to talk about geographic diversity, too.
Sure.
So I'm sitting here, my colleague, Senator Gavan, might be interested to know that despite having the largest military population in the state in Madison County, there's no one from Madison County on the board right now, which I would think would be of a big concern to him. And, there are others too, a lot of folks in Lee County, the big military population, they're not represented. There's only one from Jefferson. There's really not a lot of duplication, so that is good. There's kind of, not 2-3 county positions on here, but there's some places in the state, like the Madison County area, that have been kind of left out, and that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, perhaps we should do some membership on congressional districts. I know several boards, you split up, X amount of members, one has to come from each congressional district or geographical location, so that's a good thing. I really think that's a good thing, and then you have some at large, so there's no problem there. So, like I said, I think this stage of the game, I think we need our veterans to be involved in the process, involved in the legislation, feel like they're a part of the solution, because at the end of the day, Senator Jones, you and I and the governor and even the veterans groups that may be a little upset right now, we all want to see this as a cabinet position, as it should be, because our veterans are so important in this state that we all feel that a cabinet position is appropriate. And I certainly feel that way also. And I'm hoping and I'm pretty confident that we get there at some point. Is everybody going to be 100% happy? You and I know better than that. I don't think the governor, she may not even be 100% happy, and I know some of these other groups won't, but I think at the end of the day, we get to a position to where most people are 80 to 90% satisfied.
We can do that. We can get everybody 80%, 90% happy.
We take that all day long here, won't we?
Good, B+, A-. That'd be great.
I was always kind of a C student myself. If I get above that 60, I'm doing pretty well.
I don't believe that for a second, Senator. You're too clever for that.
Any other interesting points of your legislation? I was noticing just maybe You waiting on me? All right. I will hold up on my other questions if you want to come dialogue. Go ahead. I'll wait.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. President.
Yes, sir. You're recognized.
I'd like to ask the gentleman to yield.
Yes.
You're recognized.
Senator, I have an amendment here that will make sure and give this board potential of having some diversity on this board. As we know that, men and women of color serve in the military at all branches and has served in it for years. My dad was a Vietnam veteran, served in, I guess, what they used to call old MASH unit, on the medical unit in Vietnam. And so he saw a lot of, let him tell it, he saw everything. You got to let him tell it. But at the end of the day, I know that he saw a lot being in that kind of unit, probably saw people with missing limbs and bodies looking all kinds of ways, And I have an amendment here that will give the minority leader in the Senate and the minority leader in the House position on this, the ability to have an appointment. And I think I wanted to say, okay, all right. I want to offer.
Amendment to Senate Bill number 67 by Senator Singleton. Replace lines 59 through 60 on page 3 with the following. The board shall be composed of the following members. Replace line 73 on page 3 with the following. The Senate, one member appointed by the minority leader of the House of Representatives, one member appointed by the minority leader of the Senate.
Senator Singleton, you're recognized.
Yes, Mr. President, I move for adoption of the amendment. We have a good roll. Use the previous roll without objection.
Seeing none, so ordered. Call the short roll.
Mr. Albritton, Mr. Williams.
Twenty-nine ayes and no nays. The amendment is adopted.
Thank you, Mrs. President.
Thank you, Senator Singleton.
Thank you, Senator.
Senator Jones?
Thank you, Mr. President. I know my colleague has got an amendment, and no, he's been working very hard to ensure some representation from his folks down in the Enterprise area.
You'd like to yield?
I will yield.
All right, Senator Carnley?
Thanks, Senator.
You're recognized.
Good thing about having to wait on that is I got my cup of coffee, so we're good. But this is the bill.
Real quick, Secretary, please read and receive the amendment.
Amendment to Senate Bill number 67 by Senator Carnley. Replace line 107 on page 4 with the following. Replace line 332 on page 12 with the following.
Good? Okay.
Senator Carnley, you're recognized.
President, just, we've already kind of explained the bill or the amendment and what it's trying to do. The last part of that amendment there is something that I think, we really want to make sure that whoever it is that becomes the commissioner, the language says maintain regular communication with our veteran service organizations to improve government programs and services to our vets or veterans. I think sometimes what happens is we lose that communication. We get here and we forget, what's going on locally. And, our goal with that part of the amendment was to, ask the commissioner to make sure that they are spending time with these veteran service organizations and listening to them. The board is going to be instrumental in that and kind of reporting that, but a lot of times you hear information at your local meetings or these local posts that can, have a big impact on issues that we're seeing in various parts of the state. And as you've already mentioned regarding, representation geographically, sometimes we forget that veterans live in areas where, they grew up and maybe that's not where a base is. And so we want to make sure that, that they are represented. And so, our goal with this was to make sure that that commissioner is engaging with our veteran service offices and giving them the information that's going on, making sure that they're explaining what's going on in that department so we can maintain proper communication and also, not just go to talk, but also go to listen. And, that's something that we're learning in this process that I've learned is, this bill, I believe, is going to come out to be a much better bill. But it takes a lot of folks to, to listen to their constituents. And, that's what we were elected to do was to listen to them. And I want to say, I've got some up there in the gallery and I want to thank them for being engaged, and working with us on this. A lot of times people, oppose something and they just, kind of dig their heels in and say it's going to be this way or that way, but I'm thankful that they've been willing to engage and offer options that we can work with to make this better. And again, I want to thank you, I think sometimes people just read the headlines and, they don't really look at what goes on up here. I will say you've been engaged with me. When I've asked you things, you've listened, and you've been open. And so I want to make that clear to everybody that you have been open in this line of communication. And I want to offer that amendment and request adoption of the amendment.
All right, ready for adoption of the amendment?
Using previous roll.
All right. Any objection to using previous roll? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
29 ayes, 0 nays to Senator Carnley. Amendment's adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Senator Carnley. At this time, I want to recognize some special guests in the gallery. When I call your name, if y'all could please stand. The Alabama Association of Realtors. I know they have Realtor Day. If y'all could please stand if you're a realtor. Welcome to the Alabama Senate. Great to have you all today. All right, Senator Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President. I know a few other amendments are being worked on, so we'll continue to, I'll be happy to dialogue with my colleague here while we're waiting on some other stuff to be in the works. Folks, let me summarize. Would that be helpful if I just kind of summarize where we are right now from where we've been? I think Senator Chastain can't hear, Mr. President.
All right, if y'all could keep it down so the senators can hear. Important debate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me just summarize where we are now because we've made some changes. We'll make sure everybody's on the same page. So we've moved to 9 folks appointed by the governor, one of whom, we got the amendment coming, one of whom should be a female, and 5 of whom should have been veterans and served for 60 days at least active duty. We have 2 from the National Guard, 1 a commissioned officer and 1 enlisted. We've got 2 from the minority leaders, 1 from the House Minority Leader, 1 from the Senate Minority Leader. We're waiting on some other amendments which do some things for the pro tem, the Speaker, and the Lieutenant Governor, and we'll tell you about those when we get those. We have an amendment for notification of the veteran service organizations whenever there is a vacancy. And each of those veteran service organizations can send 3 names of nomination to the governor for her appointment. So that's the lay of the land where we are now. We're waiting on a couple things that are in the works. And by my count, I think my talking point about a smaller consolidated board may have just gone right out the window. We may be right back at 17, but at least we're not getting any bigger. How about that? Can we agree on that? And we'll just keep it where it is, maybe. So that's what we're looking at right now. You got any questions about anything I've said, Senator?
No, and I think one thing that was brought up by one of the VSOs was accreditation and making sure that we, properly vet that to not overlook anything that could jeopardize accreditation for them and their ability to serve their constituents. I've gathered some information. My source for the information was continuing to dig and reach out to make sure, and that was one of the things that we wanted to look at, and you're aware of, and understanding of that. And I think that kind of goes back to the veteran representation. Without being there and having to go through this process, I just don't, it's not something that I do. And so, I think that's where it's vital that we take our time, that we listen to these entities, and make sure that we give them the best product. And I've told people, one of the things that we've got to make sure of is when we come out of this, is that our veterans are in better shape than when we started, and I believe that is the goal of this. I don't think that we're attempting to try to undermine our service to our veterans, and I think that as we continue to work through this process and this legislative process, sometimes we come with a bill and realize that when we listen to other voices, that product becomes better. It represents a diverse group. And so that's what we're doing through this. And so, as we wait and we get that information, I'll make sure that I provide that to you. as the bill sponsor, and that we continue to work with our groups. And you know, I just want to commend them for being, you know, plugged into this. You know, from the time that they've understood what's going on, they've been very gracious with their time. You know, they've been working across the state, you know, and so they've mobilized very quickly to try to make sure that they're, you know, reaching out to their base of constituents and, you know, and listening to them. And so I'm grateful for that. You know, it's good to see the legislative process work out. You know, I know sometimes people think we come up here and we're just like, hey, this is the way it is. But, you know, we do a good job, or most of us do, I believe, of trying to listen to our constituents. Now, you know, there's times where things come up and it's, you know, varying opinions even on the same issue. But, you know, this is something that I'm looking forward to continuing to work with you on. Of course, I don't think that you can see a member in this body that's not affected by, you know, this piece of legislation, or have a constituent that's affected by it. And, you know, and I'm looking forward to continuing to work with them and go through this. And as soon as we get that, you know, I'll make sure you've got that information so we can, you know, go through this and get something put on paper and work through it. So.
Thank you, Senator, and I believe Senator Price has got some amendments. He's ready. So,
All right, Senator Price.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the time. Appreciate being recognized. We have an amendment that, Senator, I appreciate so much you taking time and we looking over this. This subject matter that we're talking about as far as our veterans, to me, to make sure that we get this right and we take care of those that have taken care of us for so many years. And I think what, after giving some thought and talking about kind of the direction that we were going in, to try to take a common sense approach to make sure that everybody's voice was heard. And what this does is it includes our different veteran organizations across the state of Alabama to make sure that their voice is heard, and that's what we're trying to do here today. And what this amendment does is the appointment that actually comes from the speaker and our pro tem, that the speakers will come from the largest veteran organization in the state, and they will submit 3 names, and then they will be selected from there. Then as far as the second largest organization, they will submit 3 names also, and the pro tem will be selecting from there. This is the way we're giving these organizations a voice. And do you have any questions about this amendment?
no, Senator, that makes perfect sense to me. So obviously, if they're the 2 biggest organizations,
Senator, let me let them read the amendment in.
Sure.
All right, Secretary Reed, receive the amendment.
Amendment to Senate Bill number 67 by Senator Price. Replace lines 59 through 60 on page 3 with the following.
All right, Senator Price.
Thank you, sir. So we were saying, I think it just takes a common sense approach that we want to make sure that these organizations are heard, that their voice is being heard, and with saying that, unless you have any objections, that we adopt this amendment by using previous roll.
Friendly amendment.
All right, any objection to using previous roll? Hearing none, so ordered.
Strawbritton. Mr. Williams.
(29 ayes, 0 nays). Senator Price amendment's adopted. Thank you, Senator Price.
Sir. Thank you, Mr. Sponsor.
Thank you, Senator.
All right, Senator Elliott.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator. Senator, this amendment you and I have talked about, it fits in well with the previous amendment. And members, what this amendment does is add the lieutenant governor as an appointing authority, one to be chosen by the 3rd largest veterans group, and then one at large. And so at this time, I'd like
Secretary Reed, receive the amendment.
Do that.
Amendment to Senate Bill number 67 by Senator Elliott. Place lines 59 through 60 on page 3 with the following. Replace line 73 on page 3 with the following.
Okay, so Senator, does that make sense to you?
Makes perfect sense. I believe, as I stated to you, our third largest organization is just very closely behind the number 2. So
A couple hundred members.
that's right. So we want to make sure they're included, and I appreciate you bringing them, getting them a seat at the table.
Very good. Well, thank you very much. And this time, Mr. President, I'd move adoption of the amendment using the previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
30 ayes, 0 nays. The amendments, Senator Elliott amendment's adopted. Thank you, Senator Elliott. All right, Senator Coleman Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Jones, we had already talked about this, have an amendment.
All right, Secretary Reed and receive the amendment.
Amendment to Senate Bill 67 by Senator Coleman Madison. Replace lines 59 through 60 on page 3 with the following. Replace line 70 on page 3 with the following.
All right, Senator Coleman Madison.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Jones, we had talked about this. It's very important that we acknowledge the service and dedication and sacrifice that the women who serve in armed services at every level. And certainly when I look at these boards, in particular the Veterans Board, I don't know if we even have a woman. And so simply what this amendment does is that, and we always have the racial diversity language in there that our boards and agencies shall reflect the racial diversity, geographic locations of people in our state. For some reason, we tend to forget that women are in this state. Women serve, they sacrifice. Even those who don't serve but are military families, those women sacrifice. And those who do serve represent all of us. They don't just serve in secretarial roles, they are out there on the battlefield. And this amendment simply says out of the 9 members that are appointed by the governor, 1 shall be a female veteran. We should say 1 or more, so we hope that more will be there because we know that in hospitals and service, mental health, any services, and there are some services that are uniquely a woman's area. And if we are not at the table to express that, not that men just intend to not do it, they don't understand, they don't have these issues. And so if a woman is on that board, she can bring that perspective. And so it is with that, Mr. Chairman, that I offer this friendly amendment. I move to the amendment used in previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Thank you.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
30 ayes, 0 nays. The Senator Coleman Madison amendment's adopted. All right, Senator Sessions.
Yeah, Mr. President, I have an amendment.
All right, Secretary Reed and receive the amendment.
Want a copy of it?
Amendment to Senate Bill 67 by Senator Sessions. Replace line 231 on page 9 with the following. Discharge, the board may recommend up to 3 individuals to the governor for appointment as commissioner. The commissioner's salary shall be set by the governor.
Yes, sir. I think we spoke a little bit about it, and I think this is a friendly amendment because the board is going to be a new board. They're going to be set up. They're going to be diverse from this state. Majority, if not all, veterans' voices should be heard in this. So I think this is a win-win amendment, and with that, I would recommend that we adopt the amendment and use previous roll.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Just to clarify, the board, meaning the current board in existence, can recommend 3 individuals to serve on the future board. Have I got that right?
No.
No? Okay.
No, this be 3 members. The board can submit 3 names to the governor to be selected as the commissioner.
For the commissioner? Okay,
Yeah.
I've got you.
Yeah.
I got you. We're not talking about the board anymore, we're talking
Still
about the
be her
commissioner.
selection, and she don't have to pick from those 3. She may not like those 3. But you see what I'm saying? Your board's going to be from across this state. It's going to be representative of our veterans. And so with that, if you have no objection, I'd offer that amendment.
Friendly amendment.
With previous roll, without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
30 ayes, 0 nays. The Senator Sessions amendment's adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Jones, and look forward to working with the vets.
Thank you, Senator. And I believe my colleague, Senator Coleman, has another, she has an amendment drafted based on our prior conversation.
Thank you, Mr. President. Per the last conversation, I talked specifically about the distinction between those who serve during wartime and those who don't. And this amendment simply says, replace line 103 on page 4 with the following: services to veterans and their families. At least one board member shall be a wartime veteran. So not adding anything, any additional members, just making that distinction in that place for a person that served during wartime.
That's a friendly amendment. I encourage members to vote yes.
Move passage using the previous roll. Oh, I hadn't given it to anybody. I got too excited.
All right, Secretary, read and receive the amendment.
Amendment to Senate Bill number 67 by Senator Coleman. Replace line 103 on page 4 with the following.
Three.
All right, Senator Coleman Madison. Senator Coleman.
Thank you. Move passage of the amendment or adoption of the amendment using previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
30 ayes, 0 nays. The Senator Coleman amendment's adopted. Thanks, Senator Coleman.
Thank you.
All right, that is all the amendments in the works that I'm aware of. If anybody else has anything right now, please speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, well, here's what I'd like to do, members. We've had a lot of amendments. Of course, we've summarized those for you. We've got 17 members again back on the board, but they're a little bit different. So there's been a lot of information, a lot of misinformation out and about related to this bill. Given that, and given the fact that we've brought folks in, we've given the VSOs, different veterans groups, a seat at the table, we've listened to them, we've taken a lot of suggested language from them, we've incorporated this all together into one neat package. And although there was a little sausage making and things might not have fit and things had to be reworked, and we finally got there. So given the fact that it's all in there and together, we've taken some feedback, we've had some discussions, we've heard a lot from our veterans communities about what's important to them. I think it's best that we give folks some time to marinate on this, look at it, understand it, let our folks in the media back there, our good friends, kind of decipher this and explain this to folks where they know exactly what's in it and what's going on. And so with that, Mr. President, I would move we carry this bill over.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Senate Bill 67 is carried over. Thank you, Senator Jones.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, Secretary, call the next bill.
Page 2 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 61 by Senators Hatcher and others regarding the School Psychologist Interstate Licensure Compact. BR pending.
Mr. President.
Senator Hatcher.
Thank you for the recognition. I'd like to move for the adoption of the BIR, if we have a good roll, using the previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
30 ayes, 0 nays. CBR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 2 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 61 by Senator Hatcher and others regarding the School Psychologist Interstate Licensure Compact.
Mr. President.
Senator Hatcher.
Members, this bill is amazing, and that's all I think I need to say. It's a bill that's intended to make it easier for our psychologists who are moving to the state primarily with the military community to be able to practice. And one of the things that I love about it is that those licensed psychologists would be able to practice in member states without the need for additional licenses. I do think my friend across the way has a friendly amendment, Senator Jones, to add to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I be recognized?
All right, Senator Jones.
I have an amendment.
All right, Secretary Reed, receive the amendment.
Amendment to Senate Bill number 61 by Senator Jones. Replace line 661 on page 24 with the following. Replace line 855 on page 31 with the following.
Mr. President.
Senator Jones.
Y'all thought you were done with me and y'all could just go, wouldn't have to listen to me anymore, so I apologize, but we have a little amendment that does a few things, and I just want to explain it to everyone before we adopt it. There is some language in this amendment that is in every compact that we've done related to military license reciprocity. There's some language in the amendment that gives the Alabama courts jurisdiction. And then there's those wonderful, awesome clerical amendments that we all just love to read and try to marinate on and digest. So that's what it does. Is that a good explanation, Senator?
Very good explanation.
Thank you. And if there are no questions, I assume you see it as a friendly amendment. I'm going to ask that we adopt it using the previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
(31 ayes, 0 nays). Senator Jones' amendment is adopted.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Senator Hatcher, for your work on this important topic.
Thank you, Senator Jones. If we're back on the original bill, I'd like, if there are no questions, I'd like to move for final passage of SB 61 using the previous roll without objection.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
31 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 61 passes. Thank you, Senator Hatcher. All right, Secretary, call the next bill. Before you do that, I want to recognize some special guests in the gallery. I got to meet y'all earlier, enjoyed that. The Chilton County leadership, they're here for Government Day. They're a guest of Senator Weaver and Senator Chambliss. Welcome to Alabama Senate. If y'all could please stand.
On page 2 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 59 by Senators Chastain and Jones regarding military medical records. BR pending.
Senator Chastain.
Mr. President, thank you for the recognition. Members, first I'd like to use the BIR using previous roll if there are no objections.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
31 ayes, 0 nays. The BIR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 2 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 59 by Senators Chastain and Jones regarding military medical records.
Members, this bill is one of our military package bills. Currently, under existing law, students that are entering kindergarten or first grade have to have a blue card in order to be eligible to enter, presenting their certification of immunization. What this bill would do was allow dependents of active military personnel to substitute military medical records as evidence of age-appropriate immunization instead of a blue card. If there are no questions from the members, I move for final passage using the previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
32 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 59 passes. Thank you, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, Secretary, call the next bill.
Page 3 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 86 by Senators Orr and Albritton regarding labor and employment. BR pending.
Senator Orr.
I move adoption of the BIR using previous roll.
Any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
32 ayes, no nays.
32 ayes, 0 nays. The BR is adopted. Secretary, call the bill.
On page 3 of the calendar, Senate Bill number 86 by Senators Orr and Albritton regarding labor and employment.
Senator Orr.
Mr. President, I have an amendment.
All right, Secretary, read and receive the amendment.
Amendment to Senate Bill number 86 by Senator Orr. Replace lines 71 through 72 on page 3 with the following. Replace line 78 on page 3 with the following. Replace line 85 on page 4 with the following.
All right. Mr. President, the amendment comes from the Department of Revenue regarding deductibility. I'd move adoption of the amendment using the previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
32 ayes, 0 nays. The Senator Orr amendment's adopted. Senator Orr.
I have a second amendment, Mr. President.
Secretary, read and receive the amendment.
They all got it. Please. Mr. President, the leader would like to come dialogue and have a point of personal privilege while I take 2 minutes at the desk.
Yeah, he's recognized to talk on the amendment.
Talk on the amendment.
Yeah, and I think Senator Kitchens wanted to dialogue with you as well, he looked like. So he'll get him on the other
Apparently it's
mic.
the one that didn't fit, is that correct? So,
Yes.
so we'll kill a little time while Senator Orr's taking care of business, so, on this amendment. Appreciate all the heavy work on the Veterans Bill just now. That's a great accomplishment, and I think it'll be well received out of the community, so we can work forward from here, and LSA gets this fixed up. Senator Kitchens, you have a comment?
Well, I know that we're working on this amendment very diligently over there to make sure that we get everything exactly right on this bill, so.
It's important we do that. Are you getting to sleep at night?
I'm not getting a lot of sleep at night, but we're working on it, though.
We're working on that. It's getting better every night, every day, I bet.
Every day gets a little bit better.
All right, here we go. Excuse us.
Mr. President.
All right, Senator Orr. All right, Secretary, read and receive the amendment.
Amendment to Senate Bill number 86 by Senator Orr. Replace lines 55 through 56 on page 2 with the following. Replace lines 86 through 87 on page 4 with the following.
All right, Mr. President, this amendment does two things. One, it makes sure that there's not an employee-employer relationship that's established, particularly for workers' comp purposes. And secondly, it pushes the effective time out to 2026. So gives companies more time to get geared up if they would like. I'd move adoption of the amendment number 2 using the previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
32 ayes, 0 nays. The Senator Orr amendment's adopted. Thanks, Senator Orr.
Thank you, Mr. President. This time I'd move third reading using the previous roll.
All right, any objection? Hearing none, so ordered.
Mr. Albritton. Mr. Williams.
32 ayes, no nays.
32 ayes, 0 nays. Senate Bill 86 passes. Thank you, Senator Orr. All right, Senator Gudger.
Mr. President, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen of the Alabama State Senate, today was a great example of how we're supposed to be able to go through this and represent all the people of the state of Alabama, working together, making sure that we have amendments. Senator Jones, I wanted to say thank you for all the time and effort you've put into this and all the amendments that you have went through and diligently had time to think through. And so I just wanted to say thank you so much for all that you've done, my friend. Thank you. At this time, Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to stand adjourned until 3:30 p.m. on Wednesday, February 12th.
All right, heard the motion. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? We stand adjourned.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yeah.